Yeah, this is Bang Bang Ray Hill. I'd like to introduce you to a woman that I met today in Augusta Coffee, a woman called Marlo, and she's got a bit of a story to tell you. First of all, Marlo, I'll ask you your name
My name's Marlo McPherson.
and where do you come from, where do you live?
So I live in Uxbridge.
Okay,
Yeah.
and tell me about your life as a child, as a brothers, sisters, and I'll let you go on now. You just speak to the camera, please.
So I've come from a family of seven, one of the oldest, and come from a broken home. My mother and father split up from very early in my life. So I went through the process of going through foster homes and social
Can I ask you a little
services.
question? What was your parents like? Did your father ever hit your mother and all that? Was he abusive?
Yeah, so my father was very abusive to my mother. A lot of violence my mum had to deal with. My mum actually gave up everything for my dad. And in the end, my dad just treated her really bad. And he ended up getting into another relationship and then getting married. So yeah, their relationship wasn't good at all. And when I was a child, actually, there was a fight over my life. My father wanted to take me away to Portugal with my other gran.
Are you Portuguese, yeah?
Yeah, I'm half Portuguese, half Jamaican. And yeah, so my dad tried to steal me when I was about maybe, just under one, away from my mother. And basically, my grandmother, from my Jamaican side, she saved the day. So that's why I'm still here. I'll probably be in Portugal growing up. And from there,
Tell me
yeah.
about your brothers and sisters. How many brothers you got
So I got five brothers
and sisters?
and two sisters.
Well, tell me about your brothers. Are they into gangsterism and that sort of thing? Are they naughty
No,
boys?
so my brothers are good. They're very grounded in life. A lot of them are married and settled down with children, and then the youngers, they're on the right track. So that's a good note.
Okay.
We didn't have to deal with any of that. And my sisters are again, they're the same. They're very grounded. Um, but I was the black sheep of my family, like I was the one that was the outcast, the one that was always rejected, the one that was pushed to the side, the one that shouldn't speak the truth. I come from a place where, I guess in life in general, people find themselves pretending, just pretending, and pretending becomes just, some people's truth. But I was never that child, and then speaking the truth will get me into trouble. So,
So what was your father like towards your mother? Did he upset you in any way?
my father wasn't a good father. He hadn't been there for me all my life. um, the times where he had opportunities to be there, the man that I got to see was a very aggressive man, somebody that swore a lot, somebody that only cared about themselves. And from an early age, to be honest, I wasn't attracted to my dad because I was just like, oh, this is the man that I love so much. But he ended up being somebody that was pretty rotten. But in spite of all of that, growing up as a youth, I still had the love for my dad. There was,
Was you a tomboy or anything like
oh
that?
yeah, I was a right tomboy growing up, into my football at the age of 14. I was playing girls football team for Wembley. I wanted to be in the Olympics. So yeah, sports is a big
About swimming, was you a swimmer?
massive. Yeah, swimming was
Rugby?
also my thing. I'm a very great swimmer. That's where the Olympic side comes into it. I was really good at swimming, so that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't end up embracing it. God obviously had different plans for me.
Okay. Well, tell us about you as a child and going on. Well, I won't interrupt you no more. Just tell us more into it, yeah.
So, as a child, me personally was a very bright, bubbly, vibrant young girl. But from a very early age, that was crushed in me because of the rejection. Being passed from family to family, and then when being passed on, you're not wanted, which affected me a lot growing up as a child because, I couldn't trust anyone, and I wanted to trust people that I cared about and loved, but I couldn't. And I ended up living with my auntie for 7 years, who took advantage of me, my brother, and my sister. My auntie was my sister, my mother's sister. So when my mum took a bit sick and she was looking after us, she just abused us really. You know, we had nights where, you know, we wouldn't eat properly. For 7 years, I had one pair of shoes, one jacket. And on the flip side, my cousin was living this best life because those days, social service used to get so much money to anybody that was a foster parent. And my auntie invested that all into houses and cars and stuff like that. So we were quite neglected. Even little things like, you know, we wanted to just watch TV. And I find myself like trying to go in the front room. And I was told, come out of the front room. So as an innocent child, you sit at the door, you still want to see the TV, what everybody else is watching. And then my auntie gives my cousin the nudge to say, shut the door, you know? So I'm there sitting in front of this door in my face, no longer allowed in the front room, can't watch the TV from outside, and just find myself going back to my room. And, you know, I had a diary. My diary was my best friend. I wrote everything in my diary, all my feelings, and I think it helped me a lot to get through
So how did you get on,
those
sorry,
hard times.
how did you get on with your sports? I mean, what started you into sports?
So it was high school, really. From high school, they recognised.
Whereabouts, what school did you
So I went to John Penrose High School. That's in Harefield. It's not John Penrose anymore. It's called Harefield Academy. And from that school, they recognised how good I was at my sport. I was in the girls' netball team for many years. Won a lot of games on the team. I did hurdles, which I was very good at. And I also did cross country, which I was also good at. Always came number 1 or 2. Never 3, 4, 5. Always 1 or 2. But the time I got to the end, I was dead because I had asthma, but I always won.
So tell me about the swimming. What happened?
My swimming, you know, I did swimming from when I was a child. That's probably one of the best things my auntie did for me, was put me into swimming. So from the age of 10, I was a strong swimmer. And then when I got into my teens, I wanted to embrace swimming for the Olympics. But I didn't end up going down that road.
And what age was that?
That was about when I was about 15, 14, 15.
Do you know any names that got into the Olympics at that time?
No, I don't, to be fair. No.
So tell me more about what happened as you were 15 years of age, because you're very attractive. So you must have been boys in your life.
So my first boyfriend was when I was 15 years old. That was my very first boyfriend. He was a little older than me, and
Black, white.
he was a black guy.
It doesn't-
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, does it? He was just a
Not at all,
guy.
yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't a good relationship because, you know, he made me feel like he was my boyfriend, but really he just wanted to have sex with me, you know. And I guess like men recognize that these young girls that, you know, they haven't been touched yet, so he tried to claim me. And so by the time I was 16, I had my first intercourse, you know, which was horrible, to be honest, because, you know, I guess every girl has their dream of this, like, you know, fantasy of like candle lights and, you know, the whole 5-star experience. But mine really wasn't that. And after I had sex with the individual, my boyfriend at the time, he dumped me. So from that, trusting and relationships with men didn't really start well for me. It started with my dad, really, because my dad let me down as a man. And then obviously getting into relationships.
What do you mean by that?
You know, it was his responsibility to protect his princess. It was his responsibility to make sure that the world that he knew was bad, that I was going to be protected. But he neglected me because of, you know, the other side of the family wasn't too keen of my father going out with a Jamaican woman, you know, and make it worse to have a child with a Jamaican woman. But they were willing to accept me as long as they got my mother out the way, which, like I said in the beginning, they had this fight over me. But my mother, you know, overcame that situation, which was probably the best thing for me, because that side of the family's got a bit of racism. And yeah, so my father, he let me down, you know, and it really hurt me because even though I knew he was a bit of a bad person, there was still this fire of love for my dad that, you know what, if he is a shit dad, if he is a bad dad, you know what, that's my dad. You know, I didn't come here alone. They're my parents. You can't choose your parents. And I wanted to give him another chance. And when it comes to the time where I was going to give him that chance, I think I was about 21. I met my half brother on Facebook, and he was also rejected by my dad, because my dad had 4 other children with another woman, and me and my stepbrother, he was also rejected because his mother was abused by my father as well. When we got talking on Facebook, he basically said, like, I was like to him, yeah, I want to find dad, like, you know, I want to have that adult conversation now that I'm an adult and I can talk to him. And he died before I got to do that. You know, my brother tells me that he's dead, and I didn't believe him at first. I was like, no way, like, God, I finally want to talk to my dad, and now he's gone. Excuse me. So yeah, pushing 2 weeks forward from that event, I got the letter to confirm he was deceased, you know, and it really hurt me, because I wanted to give him the opportunity to say sorry, or just explain your side, because everybody's got a side. You know, sometimes we don't always understand by looking on the outside. You know, we got to come in sometimes to find out what was really going on, why there was a pattern of that behavior, or why there was that neglect. And unfortunately, my dad couldn't do that for me. But on the flip note, I kind of feel like it was God's intention as well, because, you know, they were never good. So maybe if I had that conversation with my dad, I'd probably be a lot more disappointed in him.
So what, being as a tomboy, yeah, did you ever get in any trouble with the police?
So yeah, my first criminal offence was when I was 14 years old. I was so naughty. I was in a park, and basically there was a young Indian girl who was riding on her bike with her family, having a great day. And I'm smoking my cigarette, and I said to my friend,
14?
14, yeah, I was the naughty one. Smoking my cigarette, and I said, you know what, I want her bike. My mate's like, go on then, get her bike. So I went up to the girl, and I'm like to her, oi, I want your bike.
You don't seem that sort of person, you know, seriously.
Yeah, well, I was naughty, you know, but I realised my naughtiness was rebellion from the hardship I had gone through. But anyway, the girl was like, no, rightfully, like, it's her bike. So because she told me no, I decided to burn her with a cigarette. And she screamed so loud, I can still hear her ring in my head. And her father came out, and I ran for my life, and, you know, with this bike and all of this kind of stuff. And then I ended up at my mate's house, and chilled there for a couple of hours. And my mate said to me, why don't you walk the back way so you don't get caught, like, just in case if there's any police. But I was so boasty. I was just like, nah, I'm not going to get touched. Everything's fine. As soon as I bust the corner, the police were waiting for me. And funny enough, I had marijuana in my possession.
Was you smoking drug, yeah?
I was smoking at 14. I started smoking cigarettes at the age of 12.
What about drugs?
And I started smoking marijuana at 13.
Any other drugs?
Nah, I never tried any other drugs. And yeah, so that was my first criminal offence, and I got arrested. They put me in a cell for a couple of hours, and I'll never forget just, you know, talking to God that day. I was crying because I was like, now it's all real. I'm in a prison cell. I'm only like I'm a child.
A prison cell or a police cell?
A police cell. We didn't go that far.
Yeah.
But I was just like, you know, I started talking to God, and I was like, God, you know, I was more scared of my grandma than the police. I was like, when my grandma comes, she's gonna beat the shit out of me. Yeah. But so I prayed to God, and I was like, God, please, I know I did wrong, you know, forgive me, and like, don't let this become a bad situation. Anyway, I heard my grandma screaming to the police officers, throw away the key. Really? Yeah, she's like, don't let her out, just throw away the key. Anyway, got out the cell, and my grandma literally put me in a headlock before coming out of the police station, and it started beating the shit out of me all the way home. And that was my first experience and last experience of going into a police cell. And yeah, I was just 14 years old, very rebellious, you know. But I realized the rebellion comes from a lot of pain, because when you had a hard childhood, it's natural for us to become rebellious
Sure, for
and
sure.
become little pieces of shit, as
Sure.
the world
I
would say.
understand that, yeah.
And it's not who we are, it's just who we become, you know what I
It's
mean?
not your fault.
No, it's not, because somebody's triggered something that was innocent and they destroyed that, you know what I mean? So out of pain, like I say to my friends all the time, it could go two ways. You're either going to get bitter or you're going to get better. Obviously, being a teenager, I'm just bitter. I'm just rebellious. I don't care about anyone but myself at that point, you know what I mean? And funny enough, the police officers came to my house 2 weeks after being arrested and all of that. And they turned around and said, you know, it wasn't you that burned the girl. They said the Indian girl said it wasn't you that burned the girl. It was the other girl that was with you. And for me, that was my first sign of God.
Really?
I was like, oh my God, you actually answered my prayer.
Okay.
And God knew that it wasn't the girl, it was me.
So tell me more about when you're like 15, 14, 15, what happens? Anything? How
So 16, I was dating a particular guy, and what happened was he was a cool boyfriend, pretty much looked after me and all of that. And he had a best friend who used to hang around with us all the time. And I used to look at this guy as a brother, because I'm just like, he's people then, you know? And one day my boyfriend couldn't take me home. I'd stayed in that individual for a year. One day my boyfriend couldn't take me home, so I asked, the friend offered to take me to the bus stop, which was only where we were located. It was probably only maybe a 10-minute drive, 7-minute drive. Anyway, to cut the story short, get into this car now, and he's driving off, and I noticed that he's passed the roads that I'm meant to be going on the bus stop. And then he's like, I'm going to go and get some marijuana. So I was like, whatever, that's fine. And then he'll drop me to the bus stop. I'm like, okay, that's fine. He comes out the car, goes to where he's going, comes back. And when he came back, I was thinking, okay, now I'm going to go to the bus stop, you know? Then we drove past the roads again and happened to miss the road of the bus stop again. And then after that, he takes me down this dark alley. And straight away, as a woman, all your instincts start to freaking kick in. You're just like, fucking hell, why am I here? What is he about to do? And before I could even answer those thoughts in my mind, he slapped me. He tried to, I remember I was wearing like shorts and a little vest top, because I was like 16, dainty and nice and all of that. And he literally tried to rip my clothes off of me. He started hitting me with his mobile phone. I was like saying, I was crying to him. I was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? And all he kept on saying is, shut up, take off your clothes. He was trying to pull down my shorts. And all I heard, no word of a lie, all I heard was a voice tell me, pretend that you're going to be sick. And as soon as I heard that voice say, pretend I was going to be sick, I literally started going, bleh, 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 like I was going to throw up. And he literally kicked me out his car. He's like, oh, get out my car. And I ran to the bus stop. And I ended up at my mate's house, my good friend Fiona, big shouts out to you. And I had the longest shower. I literally just missed that rape. I could have been raped. It was about to happen. He was doing everything in his power to rip off my clothes. And I'm thinking, oh, fuck, I'm fucked. I ain't got no one to call. I'm in a dark alley. I'm fucked. And had it not been for that voice that said, pretend, because I wasn't going to be sick, Ray. No. Something told me to pretend that you're going to be sick.
Explain, like, just, we're going a bit forward here, yeah?
Yeah.
But obviously we're going to come back.
Yeah.
Explain to me, like, say like you did run away, you got away from this guy and you wanted to go to the police station.
Yeah.
Where are the police stations?
So, nowhere near actually.
They're all shut, aren't they?
All the police stations are, well, at the time it wasn't too bad. Yeah. They were active. Today you won't find no police station. And for me at the time, my closest station, because it happened in Harlesden. Yeah. So my closest police station would have been Wembley. Because Harlesden police station is just not open. It hasn't been open for a long, long time, you know.
So how do you feel about all these police stations being shut now and all that for kids?
It's terrible. Like when you got a young person that's in threat for their life and they think, you know what, if I can just get to the police station, the local police station, and then that police station ain't open, where do you go? What do you do? Who do you turn to? You know? It's disappointing. All the police stations that are closing down, to be honest.
Okay. So tell me more about your life from 16, or you've been raped, nearly raped.
So yeah, I was nearly raped. That was the first attempt of nearly being raped. My second attempt of being nearly raped, I just come back from church. Imagine that. I was praising the Lord, people. And I literally came back from a youth service. I'm on the 282 going to South Harrow. And I'm in my zone. I'm on the bus, minding my own business. And all I heard, again, y'all can't, you lot can't think I'm crazy, okay? I heard a voice. And the voice said, the next person that's going to come on the bus has a perverted spirit. He's going to try and rape you. Fear not, I am with you. And at this point, I'm like, I had headphones on because I was listening to music. And I was like, oh my God, was that my head?
Did you ever carry any weapons? Did you ever carry any
Nothing.
weapons?
Nah, I never carried any weapons in my life, actually. But yeah, when I got to the next bus stop, the man that got on the bus, I knew it was him. It was like, he just stood out like a light bulb. And he actually sat next to me and he tried to rub my leg. So I literally said to him, like, what are you doing? He moved to the next seat and he was staring at me the whole journey. So I literally said to this guy, like, you see that thing you're doing? You're going to go to fucking hell, minus the F word. You know, you need to stop doing that, because at this point, God has exposed to me that he's a rapist. You know what I mean? Anyway, he paid me no mind. I got off the bus and literally the voice like, don't go home, go to the corner shop. So I went to the corner shop. I had no penny to my name. And I'm walking around this shop pretending I'm going to buy something. And the guy's waiting for me outside. I come out the shop and he's there. And the next thing I might tell you might scare the shit out of you people. But literally, I just started praying in the Holy Spirit, as us Christians will know. And I watched the man run for his life. And I got home and I fell on my knees. I was like, God, don't ever do that to me again. I literally fell on my knees and I was like, God, don't ever do that to me again. But God was testing my faith.
Okay, tell me about, you were telling me about that you met some guy that you was really involved with, and tell me about him. He was a robber, armed robber or something?
Yeah, so I ended up in a...
How old was you then? What age was you then?
I was 23, prime time of my life. You know, the whole world's my oyster. And I ended up getting into a 10-year relationship.
Tell us about the relationship. Tell us not the 10-year about that. Tell us about the beginning with the guy and what was he like. And
so the individual, I wasn't keen on the individual because of his criminal activities. He was well known in the street for, you know, just robbing people, even killing people. He's killed before. And you either love him because of the fear. People tend to love him because they're fearful of him, or you're just basically one of his enemies that you're running away from. So, you know, I ended up getting involved with him from an early age, and yeah, he was in prison.
Tell us about him as a person when you were with him.
So, you know, in the beginning, I guess like every relationship, it's all kind of like amazing. And for me, he was everything I ever wanted. And, you know, in life, it's kind of like surreal to get everything you want. It's just like we dream about it, but we don't really fucking get it, do we? But I ended up getting everything I wanted in this guy, other than the fact that he, you know, his circumstances, and he treated me good. You know, he made me feel like a queen. You know, even if his family disliked me, they couldn't dare to say anything bad about me. You know, he put me on that high pedestal. If I needed money, if I needed just, you know, to get by, or just if I wanted to do shopping, he would look after me and he would do all of those things for me, you know, get his people to send it to me because he was in jail. But very quickly, after like 2 years of our relationship, things spiraled negatively. It's kind of a bit of a yin and yang, really, because he might blame me for the fact that I lied a bit in the relationship very early. But a lot of my lies in the relationship early was because of fear.
Yeah.
I was afraid to be honest. And again, that goes back to my childhood, because back in the day when I was a kid, they were like, you tell the truth, keep your mouth shut. Better you lie. Better you pretend, like all of us, because we're used to pretending. So why don't you get on this boat and pretend? But, you know, I just didn't make sense to me, because, you know, black is black, white is white. You can't say it's green, can you? It is what it is. And yeah, so I, you know, I started, you know, saying little white lies, and, you know, he just became very controlling, very violent towards me. He never physically hurt me, because obviously he was in
Was he
prison, but it was a
possessive?
mental,
Was he very possessive towards you in any way?
very possessive, very controlling. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't breathe without him, because he wouldn't allow it. He's like, if you want to breathe, if you want to breathe, you know, you need my permission to breathe. That's the kind of level of control, you know. If anything I ever wanted to do, I had to make sure I had to get validation first before actually doing it. It kind of sounds like you're in a father and daughter relationship, but this was my partner. And yeah, it was just really horrible. And, you know, over the years, I deteriorated within my confidence and in my character and my identity, because I became a prisoner myself. That was my reality. I was a prisoner. You know, I used to live in a one-bedroom flat, but all my everything was dark, because...
But in your mind it was dark, yeah? Or
Well, in my mind, but I started living that life,
Yeah,
because
sure.
I was just a prisoner. I just had this one little phone, my little sofa, and he was always on that phone. You know, there's one time I had a missed call from him 165 times. I didn't even know the phone can go to that many missed calls. I thought at some point it would block. But that's how controlling he was, you know. And if he didn't hear from me, he's sending his people to look for me. He would send his cousins.
Is he in prison this time, is he?
Yeah,
Well, tell us
yeah.
about what he got arrested for and all this.
So he
You
got
must know more
arrested he got arrested early in his life. He got arrested at the age of 18, I believe, and something like 11 counts of armed
I don't know his
robbery
name. I don't.
and 9
Yeah.
accounts of like holding possessions of like firearms and things like that.
Possessions of firearms.
Yeah. So that was him. And even me knowing all that history about him, I still said yes to him. And the only reason I said yes, because he had a mind about him that was so beautiful for me. You know, he's very intelligent, very wise. The wisdom that he had was very appealing to me, because I got very strong head. So it's kind of hard for my mind to be stimulated. And I found someone that could stimulate my mind. In the end, he ended up controlling even the way that I thought. You know, my family, I remember my family and my friends saying to me a couple of years ago, they were like, we don't know who you are. Like, you've changed so much. And I remember receiving that from them. And I went home and I looked at myself, and I promise you, I couldn't see myself. I'm like, well, who are you? You know, that's how much my prison sentence with this guy had just changed me completely, you know. And
How often did you visit him?
yeah, I used to visit him a lot. So in a month, I probably did about maybe 5-6 visits, you know, off my own money. You know, these times I'm not working, you know, I'm collecting gyro and using that money to go and see him, you know, sending him money. I've never spent money on a man in my life till this one came along. You know, no, that's the truth, people. Any of my friends would tell you, you'd be lucky to get Ribena from her. But this one, you know, I gave him everything, because I thought he was my everything. And yeah, very toxic relationship. When someone's telling you, you know, how you should walk, how you should talk, when you should sit, when you should stand, when you can eat, when you can go out. It was literally prison, you know. And anytime I wasn't by my mobile, like even I had a shop that was about 5 minutes away from my house, and I'll say to him, you know, I'm gonna just go to the shop to just get, you know, the usual bread and milk. And he'd be like, okay, I'm timing you. I'll be like, okay, that's fine, you know, because I'm not doing anything between that. I mean, it's only around the corner. And if it's 5 minutes it takes me to the shop and I come back 7 minutes,
Really?
hell has broken loose.
No way.
Hell, I would get that for 3 days.
Oh, wow.
Nonsense, you know, a headache, you know. And the name calling, you know, constant name calling.
So how long did you visit him for? Can I ask you? How long did you visit him for?
In total,
how long did you stand by him?
So I stood by him for 10 years.
Literally 10 years.
Literally
You
a
was good girl for 10 years?
whole 10 years I was
Tell us all
faithful.
about it. Tell us all about it.
10 years I was faithful to this man, very committed to the relationship once I was in it, and never strayed, you know, had opportunities of, you know, dating other people. And I mean, he would have never known, but I didn't, you know. I stayed faithful thinking that he was going to be the man that I was going to marry. On top of that, he's given me all the dreams and all the talk that I want to hear. And in the result, it just didn't really go that way at all. It ended up being just one big mess and a waste of my time. I call him now my 10-year hindrance. That's what I call him.
You waited 10 years for him?
10 years, yeah, 10
Tell
years.
us about what happened at the end of the 10 years? What happened?
Well, at the end, by the end of the 10 years, the individual comes out.
Visiting him regular?
Yeah, well, in the 10 years, I stopped visiting him probably after the 7-year mark because he wouldn't see me. He used to be like, if I see you, I might fall out of love with you, because he used to be angry at me, you know, because there was no reason to be angry at me.
Well, because
But he was just controlling.
You're a beautiful woman. It's like,
Yeah.
your mind in prison, I've been in prison, your mind's working overtime like other things rather than that person, really. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I was dealing with. It was just like, he didn't care about me. He didn't care how I was suffering. He didn't care how it affected me. Not just me though, my family and my friends, because they had to watch that. They had to watch me throw away my life. They had to watch all the tears out my eyes. You know, they saw me go through hell and back, really, you know. And at the end of it, the individual didn't change. He didn't give me the dream life I wanted. He ended up betraying me. And when I say betraying me, he wasn't honest, you know what I mean? I was honest throughout 10 years. Okay, a few little white lies, which, you know, hold my hands up. But when you're dealing with a man like that, you're too afraid to say anything, because they've put fear inside of you, that even if you're not doing anything bad, it could be something silly, Ray, like, I'm going to go and check my best friend. I don't want you to go and see her. Well, why don't you want me to go and see her? She's my best friend. I've been in the house for 6 months. I haven't seen anyone. I haven't done anything. Surely I'm allowed to go and see my friends.
Well, you had to tell him that you were going to see
I
someone.
had to ask.
Really?
Not tell. Could never tell, Ray. It was always asking. And then I had to get his approval. Now, there was many times where I was just like, do you know what? Fuck this. You know, even my people, like, we're waiting on you. Like, we're not eating our dinner. We're waiting for you to come. You know what I mean? And I used to be like, do you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to go. Well, what does he know? It's probably like a lockdown now. He's probably banged up. You know what I mean? So I can get away. And somehow,
did he have a mobile phone in there? Did he have a mobile
yeah,
phone?
he did. Somehow he'll get calls to me.
Really?
I get calls on my phone. I'm like thinking it's just a random number, and he's on the fucking other end. And he'd be like, I've been calling the house phone. Where are you? And I'm like, I'm out. Out where? I'm out with my best friend. I don't fucking believe you. And you know, if you don't get into your house in the next 10 minutes, you slag. I'm gonna get someone to fuck you up, you know? That's the kind of shit I had to deal with. When my friends would testify for me, when he used to call my phone and I was in a room full of like my mates and stuff, maybe like 6, 7. All right, I'll tell you about a year of my birthday. One year, I think it was my 25th, 26th birthday. And
Can I ask you how old you are, actually?
Yeah, I'm 34 years old.
You look young, you know. You look young. Yeah, you look young.
Thank you. On my 25th birthday, I had just like a warming party at my house, just close friends and family, just food and a bit of music. And no word of a lie, he called me. And he's expecting me to be at home by myself, even on my birthday. So I was literally like to everyone, anytime he called my phone, I was like, everyone shut the fuck up. Literally, I had to tell them, if you needed to breathe, you need to go outside. Because if he hears, even just, and his hearing was very good, you know, it freaked me out, man.
Believe me, when you're in prison, you don't hear a lot of noises, you know, and so your hearing is very
Sharp.
Yes, very sharp, and your eyesight's very sharp. So you, but not only is it sharp, you want it, you're looking for it.
Yeah. That would make sense.
It might not even be there, but you're hearing something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going through, like these kind of characteristics from him. You know what I mean? And it was literally like when he calls, everyone had to shut up, and it was so awkward because I got a whole room of people trying to hold their breath while I'm on the phone to him.
Sorry. Did the phones he had, were the phones he had phones that he could see you, or just phones that he could talk to you on?
No, just talk.
Okay.
I think there was some stage over the years that he did get a smartphone. He was blown away when he first saw his first smartphone.
Okay.
And we did have video calls, intimate kind of stuff, you know, and even those times for me, Ray, were horrible because like he was asking me to do things that I wouldn't want to do. He would ask me to do things that I wasn't comfortable with doing. He was asking me to do things that, you know, for me wasn't a life that I was exposed to. And, you know, he used to put me down sometimes and say like little things like, to put me down, he'd be like, you're being boring.
Do you know what a lot
no guy wants no boring girl.
Do you know what a lot of that is? A lot of that is all prison talk and the way people act in prison. It becomes them, yeah. So in a way, it's not maybe his fault. Maybe he's picked all this up from other people, and he wants to be bigger than what he really is.
It sounds like that, yeah. Actually, you nailed it on the head. That sounds realistic to me.
Yeah.
You know, adapting a certain language while you're in there.
Sure.
And then obviously when you're having a bad day, who do you take it out on the most?
For sure.
The person that's always fucking there.
Yeah, for sure.
That's always going to pick up that phone. You know, and I got all of it.
And what's the furthest you ever been to see him, visit him? What?
Was it, what was that prison called? Not Wakefield.
Archery, something like that? Lay Hill?
No, not that one. I think the furthest I've travelled is like Milton Keynes.
Okay. Oh, Milton Keynes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forget that one. Yeah,
I can't remember the name.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the furthest. Although, like, there were a few trips that I did go on with his family. So when his mum and dad were going see him.
His parents as well. What was he like to visit when he was with his parents? Did he tell him to go out the room while he spoke to you, or did he?
No. We always sit down together. Okay. You know, you get those 2-hour visits.
Yeah, for sure.
So like we have an hour where we're all together at the table with mum and dad, and after that hour's up, mum and dad would give us an hour together. You know what I mean? Okay. So, and then when they weren't there, then we obviously got the 2 hours ourselves. Every time I saw him, it was always good because there was never like any weird altercations other than the fact that, you know...
It was over the phone, yeah?
It was mostly over the phone, but, you know, when you're dealing with all that shit over the phone and then you got to see this individual...
Do you know what? You know,
it's a lot of poker face, isn't it? You know?
The worst things they ever done was to bring phones into prison, you know? I think the letters were... hard work because you got a letter, you get a letter, you're waiting for the reply,
yeah?
But he can't physically
get to me.
Get to you, yeah?
Yeah.
Phones, everybody hears something on the phone, yeah?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And everyone wants to run the woman down or whatever for some reason, you know?
Yeah.
Go on.
Lost my trail of thought now.
Huh?
Lost my trail of thought.
The trail of thought was that you was visiting the mum and dad.
That's it.
Yeah.
So there was this one time he tried to play up when I went to go and visit him. because he was IPP.
Oh, like me.
Yeah, he was IPP, so he was, he's around a lot of like very high risk prisoners, you know what I mean? And he always did say like he preferred to be around the people that are doing like life and the IPPs because they're just focused. They've done their time. They're just more focused on getting out. You know what I mean? Than all the youngers, because youngers always got something to prove. But I never forget one time I visited him and we were in a bad place, and he tried to threaten me. It was so funny, actually. It was so funny, yeah. He actually tried to threaten me on a fucking visit, and he grabbed my hands because, you got the screws walking up and down, you know what I mean? And they're saying like not too much contact and stuff like that, no kissing and all of this kind of stuff. But he grabbed my hand and he was going to break my hand. Really? He was like, I will fuck you up right here and now. Those screws won't get to me quick enough.
You're quite a physical person yourself.
I'm a tough cookie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're quite,
I don't know how I became, but probably it's my childhood because I had gone through so much rejection. But he tried to literally break my hand and threaten me on a visit. And that day I decided to embarrass the shit out of him. I decided to clap my hands. I was like, well done. His name, everybody turned around and looked at him. He really looked stupid. I was like, you've lost it now.
How long do you think that you've been holding all this in, rather than let it out and let people hear
I've been holding it in for a long time, but I feel like I had to go through a process of healing and acceptance of what I've been through, because it took me such a long time to accept that I threw away my life. 10 years, you can never get that back again. No, you can never. Time is one of the most precious things that you can't get back again. And I was more beating myself up a lot because it's like, well, you did this to yourself. You made the decision. You knew who you were going with. Your family and your friends were telling you, don't go down this road. We don't like him. He's no good. But I was so... I thought he was the it. I thought he was the one. I thought he was going to be the man that finally was going to take care of me. And I think that's why I fell in love with him, because he made me feel safe. He made me feel like he understood my brokenness, which he did because he had gone through his own shit in life. But
so how did you feel when was you at court when he got sentenced?
No, I wasn't there.
So how did you feel when he told you that he got an IPP? Did you understand what IPP was?
No, so when I first got with him, I had no idea about IPP. So when it was probably like 4 or 5 years into the relationship. Really? And by then I'm in love.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, so when he's like to me, look, you don't have to wait for me.
He told you to what?
Yeah, he was like, nah, he told me on the phone, he's like, look, I feel bad. I can't make you wait and like waste your life and blah, blah, blah. And I used to be like, no, babe, ride and die. I'm here for you. I'm gonna walk this journey with you. I'm here.
And you did.
And I did. Yeah. I did. I sincerely did. I gave him everything. I gave up everything for him. You
gave your life. Really.
My whole life. Like I said,
you was in the worst prison.
That's why I said
all around you, didn't you?
That's why I said, Ray, I was a prisoner for 10 years because all I had was like this mobile, this house phone. And it was just like me and my little sofa and in my little flat in the dark, always, because, you live in those flats and you're on the ground level and people can see you while you're watching in your living room. Yeah. Even things like that. He's like, I don't want no one to look at you.
Wow.
Everything I had to be covered. I had to be hidden.
So you was like a Muslim, really?
Actually, in the 10 years I became a Muslim.
Sure.
I ended up becoming a Muslim for 5 years.
Okay.
Not so much because of him, but it was because of him at the same time. He didn't force me into the religion. I was already come from the Christian faith. Okay. So the more I read into Islam, and now I'm dating a guy that's Islamic, it just became, it just came that way. Okay. And that was another big mistake that I did, but that's on another podcast. Yeah. But yeah, it's a shame that, it was just a waste. But
Do you sometimes feel, when you're talking about it now, yeah, I can see in your eyes a little bit of, like, something there, yeah? Do you feel that maybe if he hadn't have been that different, you'd have still been with him? Or what?
well,
Is that
yeah.
10 years too much, you think?
Now, do you know what? Because I'm a forgiving person, I would have overlooked it all. I would have, because that's just my character. I'm so loving, so kind that I know you shot me 10 times, but I'll still choose you.
Can you explain something to me? Because I've been there myself, yeah?
Yeah.
Can you explain to me that when you used to visit him, yeah?
Yeah.
Did you feel that he was changing? Something was different to him, towards you? The whole him was changing into a different person altogether?
Nah, because when I used to visit him, that's the man I knew.
Yeah.
Controlling his way,
Never changed.
his way or the highway. Don't question it, respect it.
He never tried to give you money, never tried to get you money, never tried to help you?
A few times, in the 10 years, he has done, but I've done more for him, to be honest.
For sure.
When I lost my parents, it was my mother's inheritance that I was sending. Yeah.
Tell us about how you felt when that happened. How did you?
So it's so weird because it's when I lost my I lost my dad in 2010, and then I lost my mum in 2011. So it was like two blows in one.
So you needed him, really.
And at that point, I knew God was going to bring a husband into my life, to take care of me and to build.
Explain to me something, yeah? I've talked to you quite a bit, Azams, and you're always mentioning Jesus and God. Tell us about how you got into this Jesus and God.
So I come from a background where my grandmother's a praying woman, my mother's a praying woman.
Jamaican side of it or what?
I guess it's my Caribbean side because I grew up with them. I didn't grow up with dad, so I got to see that in my aunties and my mum and my grandmother, especially my grandmother. She's always been a strong woman of faith. So from a child, we grew up in the church. Not that I took it seriously, but we grew up in that environment. But my first trust in God, and knowing that God was real, was that prison when I was in that cell when I was 14, and I made that silly little prayer to God, and God answered. That was my first attempt. Like, oh my God, there is someone there. Like, he actually is there. And then obviously over the years, that's another podcast. It progressed, and God showed himself more and more. He's not known this guy in the cloud anymore. He's as real as me and you, Ray. So yeah, that's another story.
Okay, yeah, it is.
That's another story. Yeah.
Okay, look, I think you've said enough.
I think so. We've done nearly an hour.
Oh, well done, you. This is Ray Bang Bang Hill. Please like and subscribe.
Yeah.
And have the last word, please, Marlo.
And thank you guys for taking time to listen. And I look forward to coming back again and talking through my story and my experiences. It's been great. Have a great evening. One love.